Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to day 18 of the Halloween movie review series, and today I am going to be covering Saw 6. That's right, I am getting very close to the end of the Saw portion of this Halloween movie review series. The next one will be the last Saw up until October 27th, 2017, when I go see the one in theaters. Overall, then tomorrow will be the last day that I'm going to be covering Saw. And I have not yet decided what the next series is going to be, because I'm considering doing Ghostbusters, but I'm also considering not doing Ghostbusters because I want to get away from the whole movie franchise for a little while. And I'm considering I'll talk about it in the next video. I don't really know if Ghostbusters is like a worthy one option. So, well, no, like a Halloween based option. It seems like it is, but kind of doesn't seem like it is. Like with Saw, at least it's a horror movie. Ghostbusters is not, but that's trailing off into a completely different topic. So I'm gonna go just get right into this movie. I normally open it up. I talk about who directed it and stuff, but I'm just going to read the article on Wikipedia word for word on production because there's a lot of story behind it. So I want to just kind of just read it word for word because there's a lot of story behind it. So I'm just going to read it real quick. On May 14th, 2008, Bloody Disgusting reported that Kevin Greutert, the editor of the first 5 films in the franchise, would make his directorial debut with Saw 6. Newcomer to the series, Andrew Couch replaced him as editor for the film. Saw 6 marked David Armstrong's last time to serve as cinematographer, which, if you don't know what that is, because I actually don't know myself, it's they're the chief over the camera and the light crews working on a film, TV production, or other live action piece, and is responsible for making music, art, and technical decisions related to the image of the series. Though Mark Berg and Orrin Coles again served as producers, with James Wayne and Lee Wayne are creators of the series. Executive producing Charles Closer was brought back to compose the score. Patrick Melton and Marcus Dustin, writers of Saw 4 and 5, returned to write the 6th installment. Melton said that the film had good pacing and a resolution for the series. Greutert commented that Saw 6 would have some finality to it, with something he always wanted to see in the series. During the early planning stage for the script, it was suggested that Mandlor's character, Detective Hoffman, should take on the Mafia, but the idea was quickly dismissed as not feeling Saw enough. I don't think that would have been a great idea. Hearing that makes it sounds like I'm happy that was nixed. Greutert said in a Demon FM interview that Lionsgate told him a week before filming that Saw 6 would be post-converted into 3D. Greutert was upset by this, since the film he envisioned was a 2D film. Pretty much the plans were later abandoned due to time restraints. And I'm guessing because that guy probably wasn't happy that was the case. I don't know how this film would have looked in 3D. I'm guessing it wouldn't have looked great, but whatever. But yeah, that was pretty much the entire story of what went into actually producing this movie. I don't really need to say anything else about it. But this movie was the production company that was Twisted Pictures. It was distributed by Lionsgate Films, and it came out on October 23rd, 2009. So again, as I talked about, I think in the last video, I don't remember, this probably explains, I remember I talked about it in one of the videos, I don't remember which one it was. This explains why Halloween 2 didn't come out, came out earlier, because if this movie, if it probably had gone up against this movie, considering what Halloween one, what the first Halloween remake in 2007 ended up being, I think it would have. I don't think Halloween 2 remake would have stood a chance against against Saw 6. But there was a $11 million budget going into the put into this movie. This is the most budget that any Saw franchise has had so far. Anyways, I don't know the 7th one, and I don't know how much has been put into the to the one coming out on October 27th. But yeah, so so now that I've kind of gone through all that, let me kind of just get right to this movie. And I want to say this: I actually thought this was a great film. A lot of the critics have given it mixed reviews, but I thought this film was pretty much perfect. And I really, I thought the film was perfect. I actually thought that this was probably this is my second favorite film out of the series. It's not like my absolute favorite film, but I think it's my second favorite film out of the series. It's definitely almost on par with the third one. I think the third one just has a little bit more significance than this one did, but I thought this one was fantastic. So the film opens up. It opens up with I don't know how to say her name, but I think it's Simone, because it's like Simon, but I think it's it's a woman, so I think it's pronounced Simone. And Eddie, they wake up and we find out that the bank loaners, but they don't really give their loaners fair prices. They always steal their loans and stuff. And they wake up, they have these machines attached to their heads, where the way that they can survive is one of them, they have to give up something themselves. They have to give up flesh, but it's pretty much a race. After a minute, there's a scale, and whoever they both have to cut off each other's flesh, and whoever gets the most of their flesh in, and whoever gets the most weight, actually I shouldn't say that, the most weight survives, and the loser gets, there's a machine that's just gonna drill right into your head if you lose. So Eddie, since he's fat, just starts cutting off his stomach, and I thought this looked like pretty gruesome, actually. And Simone, realizing that she's skinny and not as fat as Eddie is, she starts cutting off her arm. She first starts off with a regular knife. Eddie, though, is just cutting through his stomach. He starts putting parts of his flesh from his stomach into the scale, and realizing that time's running out, Simone realizes that she's moving way too slow, grabs a butcher axe, and just chops her hand right off. And the way she did it too, the facial expressions worked awesome, perfectly. And she puts her hand in, and she puts her arm into the bucket, and because her arm weighed more than any of Eddie's flesh wounds that he put in, she survives, and Eddie gets his head drilled in and gets killed. And I thought overall this looked like a great visual. And then it kind of takes us back to the scenes of everything that happened with Peter Strahm and Dr. Hoffman. You know how Peter Strahm's body got crushed, and then Hoffman gets a phone call. He gets told to go down. He gets called by Agent Erickson, and Agent Erickson, he goes into the scenery of where this game took place with Eddie's dead body, and he's surprised to see that this happened, and they assume that Peter Strahm did this, and then Erickson takes him into the next room, and we find out that Agent Perez is alive, which I actually was surprised about. because obviously in the last film we thought she ended up dying because of getting shot right in the head by the Billy doll, but she actually survived. Detective Hoffman isn't happy that he was left in the cold about this, and they said they did this to kind of keep it quiet, but because they recently found out that Peter Strahm was actually behind the case, they decided to come out clean with it, and they say that they're not going to keep any more secrets, and they offer to work together, and Detective Hoffman accepts. Then what's the next scene that I want to talk about? Then we meet this guy William. We find out that he works for an insurance company. He kind of runs the whole thing, and he has a mathematical equation of how it happens. We find out that he blew off for who we think is his wife on the phone. It was her birthday, and he was supposed to have dinner with her, but because of working, he has to take a rain check. So then he talks about his formula, and he talks about this guy Harold Abbott. I don't know if that's how you say his last name, but Harold Abbott pretty much was with this insurance company for years. He always paid his bills on time, and he gets cut from the insurance company when he gets heart disease because he had gotten surgery done in his mouth. And the whole thing of this equation is they have to have like a good family stance, and they have to not have any medical records, and they have to be trustworthy. And Will talks about this, and pretty much he's a little bit full of himself. He's kind of a little bit of an asshole, and he has this whole team that goes through the documentation, and the whole team's turned down a ton of them. And yeah, pretty much obviously that he's going to be part of the game. So then we see Jill Tuck, and she has the box that John Kramer left her when he died, and she opens the box, and we see revealed that there we see it more of a flashback, but we see it revealed that there was 6 envelopes, and she eventually finds out what she's supposed to do with these envelopes. Then the next scene is Detective Hoffman and the rest of the police crew go to the hospital, and he runs into this woman, Pamela Jenkins. She's pretty much a journalist. She's been following the Jigsaw case for a while. Has been dedicating her research for it, and she wants to get to the bottom of the story. She wants to talk to Joe Tuck, and she claims she knows everything about Jigsaw. She talks about the box that that she was given, and he says that he'll see if he can make that happen. Then he goes into the room and he talks to Simone, and Simone talks about how the reason that they were put in that game is because what her and Eddie were doing was wrong, and she knows that it was wrong, and Jigsaw wanted us to learn something from it. Then Hoffman asks her if she did, and then she freaks out and says, "What am I supposed to learn from this? My arm is cut off." And she goes off on Hoffman. I thought this was a great scene, actually, and it just kind of showed that even though she survived the game, she didn't learn anything. So Hoffman walks away. He goes to the clinic center where Joe Tuck works, and he gets the envelopes that were in that box, and she gives him 5 of them. She gives 5 of them to John, and to Hoffman, Detective Hoffman, and Detective Hoffman pretty much don't see eye to eye. One of the whole things is we don't really know what Joe's role in this really is. We don't really know if she's good or evil. We don't really know if she wants to be a part of the Jigsaw games, because that was kind of the whole thing. We see Detective Hoffman. We don't know if he's really gone mad from this, or if this is still part of his rehabilitation. yeah, but she gives him the envelopes, but she only gives him 5 of the envelopes. Then when then it cuts to a flashback where John Kramer's in the room. This is a flash with Joe Tuck, and John Kramer talks about how these people can't beat addictions. They're just using this as an excuse to keep themselves from being locked up and just serving justice. And Joe Tuck says that these people are trying to help themselves. And John Kramer gets mad, and he reveals that his method does work because he reveals that Amanda to her, and obviously we know what happened with Amanda. And Amanda says that John Kramer helped her, and Joe Tuck's actually kind of happy to see this, and then it cuts back to the present, and then oh, sorry, I just had to crack my knuckles. But then it cuts to the next scene, and in the next scene, what happens in the next scene? Actually, I don't remember. I'm trying to remember what happened. Oh, well, I mean, I'm just kind of jumping around. That's usually what I do in these movies. I got thinking about something else. I'm sorry. But in the next scene, we see Will, and he's writing a report for something, and he hears somebody. The power cuts out. And then he leaves his office, and we see a shadow that looks like Hoffman walking around. So he pulls out his gun. He shoots who he thinks is Hoffman, but it actually was a security guard. And then Hoffman, dressed up in a pig, dressed up as one of Jigsaw's, in the pig mask, and dressed up in one of Jigsaw's accomplices' attire, drugs Will. And then Will wakes up, and he's strapped to he's chained to a machine, and chained to the wall, and he has he has a machine attached to his rib cage, which I'll get to in a second. And John Kramer pops up on the screen, and we find out he's in a Jigsaw game. And he actually, normally when he does this, he normally uses the Billy doll, but this time he did it as himself. We find out more later on why he did it as himself. So John Kramer talks about, how you've used this mathematical equation, and you use this process for years to justify who can live or who can die, but today that's going to get put to the test. And he reveals that he has to go through 4 series of games in 90 minutes. And if he doesn't, he'll explode, and he'll never see his family again. He'll get his family taken away, just like all of his other victims have. And his first test, and if he doesn't complete this game too, there's like little bombs attached to him that will cause him to explode. And then he sees there was a janitor. I forget his name off the top of my head. But he's also in the same position he is, and pretty much they have to pretty much get into a breathing contest. The machines that are trapped, that are hooked to his rib cage, will hurt him if they both breathe. So pretty much whoever takes the fewest breaths will survive. So they get into a breathing contest pretty much, and the janitor dies. And Will survives, and then throughout this time, as he completes each game, he gets a key to the next room. And then he has a flashback of he actually has met John Kramer. He was his insurance agent. I don't know if that's what you would call what he was, but he was pretty much, John was part of that insurance he was pretty much, John had whatever the company was for insurance. And you see that they were talking to each other, and he's explaining his whole process to John about living or dying. And then he talk about, and then John says, you're missing the most important element, if the people have the will to survive, because that's the biggest test of them all. But yet he doesn't really listen. Then he has to go to his next test, and his next test is he takes these 2, I'm going to call them chains as well, and there's his secretary and let me see if I can get their names. And the insurance company that he works with is Umbrella Health. And the purpose of the first game was that the janitor Hank was a heavy smoker, and he couldn't hold his breath for that long. It was a hanging room, and he had to either choose to save his secretary, who is old, has diabetes, but he has a family, or the other one who follows all of his process, and if he whichever one he lets go of will cause one of those people to hang. So he has a minute to decide, and he chooses to save the secretary, which kind of showed that he was starting to change a little bit, which I liked that. I liked that a lot. Then later on, he's got to go through he's got to direct a woman in a steam room. This is a woman that also works for him, and pretty much he has to save her life. He has to turn off the steam, but cause himself to get steamed. But then when she asks where the key is, we find out that the key is actually inside him. Jigsaw had sewn the key inside of him. So they fight over the key, and then she had 90 seconds to 90 seconds to do this. Her time went out, and her pretty much she gets pierced right through the head and dies. So she wasn't able to complete the task in time. Then this was the best one. Will has to go into a room, and he meets his team that documents that reviews all the documents to that reveal whether or not they were qualified for umbrella insurance, and and he has to choose two of them to save, but he also has to make a sacrifice himself. So this goes on for a while. He presses a button to save two women. One woman had kids and didn't want to miss out on their lives. Another woman had sick parents that she was the only one that could care for him. And this stabs him in the hand, in both of his hands, and hurts him. So he had to sacrifice his hands to save those people. And it definitely showed that he kind of started to see the error of his ways a little bit, but it was too little too late, and I'll get into the reason why in a minute. We also meet this couple. It's Tara and Brent. Throughout they get kidnapped, and we were supposed to have thought that these were Will's family. We thought that the whole movie, and they actually made it. The way they actually did this, I thought was perfect. They actually have him on the screen, and as if they're watching him. We were supposed to have thought that Tara was his wife, and Brent was his son. And they get trapped in there. They have to wait 90 seconds. They don't know what's going to happen. They get in there with hydrofluoric acid, I believe it's called. Then there's this lever that says live or die on it, that goes up and down. And they try to see if it works, and it doesn't work. And this was within 3 minutes left. And we also see that Pamela Jenkins, she ended up getting abducted earlier. Before this, she went to Joe Tuck and gave her a note that she asked if that was important to her, and she said no, but obviously we knew she was lying. And then she got abducted by Hoffman. And throughout this, as we see Hoffman pull out these people's pictures and stuff, these people's pictures in these envelopes that Jigsaw gave him. And we find out she's there because of her obsession of exploiting Jigsaw's work. But she doesn't listen to the rest of the tape because she throws it against the wall. What an idiot. Then I'm going to kind of so that's pretty much everything that happened with the game. What I liked about the game, though, was at least this game actually had a purpose. It actually was significant, you know, because one thing I forgot to mention was pretty much this guy fucked over John Kramer huge, because John Kramer, when he got his cancer, did all this research, and he found out that there was a way that he could have cured his cancer. But Will doesn't let him because this is going to cost him too much money, and they would have to release him from his insurance because it doesn't, go with they would have to release him through his from his insurance because it doesn't follow that formula he goes with. And John Kramer's upset about this. He says that I'm someone that's doing everything I can to live, and he even talks about how the people in office and the presidents and stuff talk about how people, how it should be up to the doctors and patients whether or not they want to do certain treatments, but really all along it's up to the insurance agencies. And a quote that he says that actually sticks with this his story was he says that you think that the living are gonna be the one that pass judgment over you, so you're afraid of them, but the dead won't pass along that same judgment. It was something along those lines. And then he tells him that he's sadly mistaken. And then that was kind of like the end. So like I said, pretty much Will fucked over John Kramer huge. And I kind of like this, Will really was a piece of shit, kind of. And you could kind of see that he started to change. He saved the right people. And I liked it overall. And then going on back to Detective Hoffman, we find out that Eddie, when the jigsaw piece was cut out of him, the puzzle piece, we find out that it was the same puzzle piece that was used on Seth Baxter. It wasn't the same one as John Kramer's or Jigsaw's. So they are gonna have the tape reviewed, and at doing this, Detective Hoffman was watching the game, and then he gets called in, he gets called about the tape, and they go into the room, and then they're gonna go watch this tape. There was something that happened because Agent Perez gets a little bit suspicious about Hoffman's motives, just like Agent Strom. They see that he was timing something, and she's like, "Well, were you timing something or something?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was before I was called." And then they're gonna go review this tape. They have it's in technology. They're gonna do all this editing so they can hear the original voice. And obviously, Detective Hoffman's getting nervous because he's about to get caught, and everyone's kind of questioning why if Agent Strom really was a part of the Jigsaw game. He really was his accomplice, because they known that he had a hot head and he had a temper and stuff, but he would never do something like that. And they found it odd, and then they find it odd that he killed Seth Baxter, the same person that killed Detective Hoffman's sister. They also found it hard to what else? They also found it suspicious because the fingerprint that was used on Eddie was after Peter Strom disappeared. Then they hear Detective Hoffman's voice in the tape, and they already kind of figured it out anyways, I think. But when they heard Detective Hoffman slices Agent Baxter's throat, and Agent Perez tries to shoot him, but he uses the videotech girl to I don't remember what her name was, but as a shield, which I thought was really cool. And then he murders Agent Perez, but before he murders her, he forces her to tell him who else knows that he's a part of this, and they say everyone. And then he's like, liar, and then he kills her. He uses Peter Strom's hand. He had taken his hand because he went into the room where Peter Strom hand was smashed, and he's been using his fingerprints on all the Jigsaw cases since then. He used it on Eddie and everything, and he touches everything, his gun, his knife, with Peter Strom's hand, so that way everyone will think that Peter Strom was a part of this. and then he burns the place down, which kind of made me question what was the point of using his fingerprints, but whatever. Then earlier in the movie too, Joe Tuck had sent in a some sort of package to somebody. We find out who that is in the next movie, and Joe Tuck thinks it shows a flashback of Detective Hoffman kidnapping Sam, and let me make sure I have his name right. Timothy Yun. Obviously, everyone remembers him from the third film. And Detective Hoffman, you know, and Amanda, you can kind of see that there's tension between them. You know, Amanda knows that she's going to be in control. She's upset that Detective Hoffman hasn't been tested yet, but yet Amanda had to go through Saw 2 and everything. And Hoffman's like, I don't need a test. And then Amanda says, well, get used to it because you're going to have to deal with me for a while. And then Detective Hoffman says, I seriously doubt that. And then when they walk away, Jill comes up to John Kramer, and John Kramer reveals that, you know, he's going to take care of Joe Tuck in due time, and he gives her the key to that box that says you'll know what to do with it when the time is right. And obviously we knew what the time was right. And then Hoffman comes back to Jigsaw's laboratory, and Joe Tuck had gone there earlier. He finds the letter that was given to was given to Joe Tuck earlier. She planted it there, and we find out that Hoffman blackmailed Amanda. Earlier in the movie, it shows Amanda and Cecil going somewhere, and we find out that Amanda was there when and Amanda kind of caused John and Gio to lose their child. So he says that so the reason why Amanda failed her test was because of Hoffman, because if she didn't kill Nurse Lynn, he was gonna tell John what he did. And I'm getting the reason that he did this was because he wanted to be the one to carry on John's work, and maybe he wanted to be out of this to begin with, so he wanted John and Amanda dead because it was his fault. And this was the note that Hoffman had written to Amanda in Saw 4. So I liked it. I actually kind of liked that. It kind of showed why Amanda was so adamant to kill Nurse Lynn. And I feel bad for Nurse Lynn, Devlin, because Devlin was pretty much a pawn in Amanda's test, and she died because of Hoffman. Pretty much, it was you got. I mean, yes, she kind of deserved to be there because of everything she had done in her life, but she was pretty much a pawn. Really, that's what she was. And then Joe Tuck tases Hoffman, and I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna get back to that later. Then Will makes it. He makes it to see his family in time with 1 second to spare, and then we find out that Brent and Tara weren't Will's family. It was actually Pamela that was related to Will, and you know, it even shows the conversation that he had earlier in the film when he said he had to put off. We find out that he's her sister, and it's the only family that he has. And then John pops up on the screen, and we find out that Harold was Tara's husband. And you know, this is because obviously this was the person that Will had took off his insurance, causing him to die because he had no insurance anymore. Harold's exact quote was that he gave him a death sentence. So she has an option. That lever will cause the acid to go right into his system, and either she can choose to have him live or die. And you know, the choice. He says the choice is yours. So then Will realizes that this wasn't his game, so he begs her for mercy. Pamela's begging for mercy, but Taylor's gonna kill him anyways, not because she can't forgive him, but she doesn't want him to do to other families, and them to suffer the way that her family suffered, which I think makes sense. Actually, it's actually a logical reason. So she just can't bring herself to do it, and Brent does it though because he killed his father. You motherfucker. Which I would do the same thing too. If someone killed somebody in my family, I'm gonna murder them too. So I shouldn't say, well, I shouldn't say that, but you get the point. So yeah, he brings down he puts the lever down to die. The acid goes into William's system and melts him, and he dies. And obviously, then they show the series of events leading up to it. Of the altercation between John Kramer and Will, everything he had to do in the Saw games, and you could help but kind of feel bad for Will, but he kind of deserved this in the end. This kind of set into motion, that the dead had judgment over him because John, and if he had let John get that treatment, and had he not taken Harold off his insurance, he would have really been in that position. So his formula failed him. And obviously then it goes into, we cut back to Hoffman, and we find out that the 6 envelopes, 5 of them were Hoffman. The sixth one was for Jill. And we find out that Jill was supposed to have tested Hoffman to see that if he could withstand taking over John's work. So she leaves the room and says game over, and you could just instantly feel she went into bitch mode right here, and you could kind of see where her allegiance lied. And Hoffman's strapped down to the chair. He tries to get out. He smashes his hands to get out. He does everything he can. He's in this reverse, I didn't even mention this, but he's in the reverse bear trap that Amanda was in the beginning of the first film. He's trying to get out of it. He runs through the window, and the window jams the reverse bear trap, causing him to be able to get out. His mouth gets open somewhat, but not completely, and then the movie ends, and it shows flashbacks of everything that happened with David Hoffman. David Hoffman. Sorry, I was thinking David Hasselhoff. My bad. Mark Hoffman. And then the movie ends. And overall, this movie was great. It was fantastic. Like I said before. I thought everything just kind of hit perfectly. Everything had a reason for happening, which is what I've always liked about Saw. Everything has a reason for happening. I thought the scenes were great. I actually thought the game was innovative. I like the stuff they did with it, with the Luns, and obviously the earlier where they had to cut the where they had to cut their I forget what it's called off, but their flesh off. I liked what else did I like? I liked the characters in this movie. Jill, I thought Hoffman was awesome in this movie. I will admit I probably overhyped Hoffman a bit because I still think he's a good character, but he's not as badass as I thought he was, if that makes sense. I think I just was all hype on him. He's pretty badass, but he's not John Kramer. He's not Jigsaw. So, but I thought they didn't have. I think the problem I've had with the past 2 films is they've relied too much on the flashbacks and the blood and the gore. And this one they didn't. I thought, obviously the beginning's very blood and gory. But there was really not really much blood and gore in this movie. And I'm not now. Obviously, when I say I'm not someone that hates blood and gore in movies, I shouldn't say that. But I'm one of those people that like for example, Halloween 2, the remake, that's pretty much all but blood and gore. If blood and gore happens for a purpose and a reason, I'm okay with it. Sometimes though, there can be too much blood and gore, and it's like, okay, you don't really need to go to this blood and gore thing. And I thought this movie, they went there with it, but they didn't fully go into it. It wasn't all about the blood. It wasn't all about the gore. And I liked that a lot. I also liked, like I said, some of the characters, the story in this movie. I thought everything kind of clicked perfectly. I can't really think of like a big problem I've had with this movie. Maybe I will admit the beginning was a little bit boring, but it was slowly trying to build up to getting where it needed to get to. Yeah, that was pretty much about it. So overall, if I had to rate the movie, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I just can't it's almost perfect. I think what make like I said, I think there's some stuff that I don't quite like about it. Like they didn't really like Pamela Jenkins. I thought they could have done a little bit more than what they did with her character, but they didn't really go fully into it. And there was something else I didn't like. Can't think of anything. And obviously, it's just not as great. It's not Saw 3. It's just not. Saw 3 is the best one, I think, and I don't think any movie's gonna top it yet. We have to. I haven't seen 7 in a while. We have to wait and see. Like I said before, this gets mixed reviews. Some people love this movie. Some people hate this movie. From the critics, they didn't actually like pre-release a movie for the critics too, so I actually thought that was interesting. However, though, you could say that another reason this movie is a 9 out of 10 is it the box office draws. Hold on, they drop. The effect kind of was lost because I didn't whistle right away, I realized, but I'm going to read you, because I actually forgot to say what the box office draw was for the 5th one. I apologize for that, but I forgot to say who the cast was too. But I'm going to go over the box office draw real quick and just read you it for 5. 5 had 13, that's not even close, had 113.8 million in box office buys. 6 dropped huge, 68.2 million. That is a huge drop. I don't know if maybe I can maybe because 5 wasn't what it was expected to be, but business wise this movie was not that successful. During Halloween weekend, or when this movie came out, on opening day, it only received 6.9 million, money, and it was just it came in second behind Paranormal Activity, which was 7.5 million. But then this movie was kept going down more and more in ticket sales, and it was only in theaters for 35 days. It was in theaters from October 23rd, 2009 until November 24th, 2009. That's not that long. So overall, this movie, while I think it's great, business-wise, it was not a big success, which kind of, I'm sorry, that kind of puts the movie down a little bit. It's not really a personal opinion. It's just kind of a business. It's just kind of a fact. Like, I can't say that this movie was better than 3 because 3 business-wise was much better. So, that's just how I feel. Now that I've done that, let me this time go over the cast and, let me go over the cast and then, so I don't forget. So we had Tobin Bell back again playing John Kramer. Detective Mark Hoffman was played by Costas Mandalore. I think it was played by somebody different this time. Might have been the same person. I don't really remember. Nope, it's the same person. My bad. I knew it was the same person, but I just didn't remember. Agent Dan Erickson was played by Mark Walston. Joe Tuck was once again played by Betsy Russell. Amanda Young was once again played by Shawnee Smith. William Easton was once again played by Peter. Actually, no, he was Peter Outerbridge. That name sounds familiar. Agent Lindsay Perez was back, played by Anthena Carcanes. I don't know how to say the last name. Pamela Jenkins was played by Samantha Lemole. She was in the 5th one. Simone was played by Tanduri Howard. Tanduri Howard actually won she won a game show to become part of this movie. She had a pretty big role. She was in 2008 she was in a reality TV show called Scream Queens, where 10 unknown actors competed for the breakout role in Saw 6, and she won. So this movie made her yeah, this movie this movie kind of was like a breakout role. Eddie was played by Marty Morrow. Alan was played by Sean Armed. I don't remember who Alan is. Not. Oh, this is one. This is the secretary that survived, and Addie was I think the other person that was also gonna get hung. Hank was played by Jerry Mendicino. This was the janitor. Debbie was played by Carolyn Cave. Debbie was the attorney from Umbrella Health. This is the person that had to run through the steam room. Harold Abbott was played by George Newbern. Tara Abbott was played by Shawnee MacDonald. Brent Abbott was played by Devin Bosket. Dave, Gina, Shelby, Aaron, Emily, and Emily were all people that were part of Williams' team that looked over the cases. So Dave was played by Darius McQuarrie. Josh was played by Sean Matheson. Gina was played by Melanie Scrofano. Shelby was played by Karen Klitsch. Aaron was played by James Gilbert, and Emily was played by Larissa Gomes. Cecil Adams was back, played by Billy Otis. Dr. Hefner was back. I don't remember who she was in this movie, but she was back. She was played by James Van Patten, and Timothy Young was played by Mfo Koroho. I don't know how to say his last name. But yeah, that's pretty much my review. So like I said, if I had to rate this movie, I'd rate it a 9 out of 10. And that's pretty much it for this channel. Well, for this review anyways. I don't want to say this channel. I'm going to be making more videos. So that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel because I am actually at 490 subscribers, and 10 more subscribers will get me to 500. And if I get to 500 subscribers, I will do a 500 subscriber shout out video. So if you want your YouTube channel shouted out, subscribe to this channel so that way it will get shouted out. Make sure you click on the bell so that way if I do that video, you guys will get the notification for it, but you'll get the notifications for all my other videos. Also, make sure you check out CM Brothers. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.